In the burning heat of the Central Asian steppe, where the horizon bleeds into infinity and fate changes with the swing of a sword, a young boy with piercing blue eyes is dragged in chains toward a destiny no one could have predicted. And his name, Baibars, would one day echo across empires as the Mamluk who rose from the dust of slavery to command nations, crush armies, and alter the course of world history forever. Yet in these early moments, he is nothing more than a frightened child, torn from his Kipchak homeland, sold like livestock, beaten, branded, and traded through slave markets from the Crimean Peninsula to the bustling bazaars of the Middle East, where merchants yelled prices while ignoring the fear in the boy's eyes, unaware that the child they handled so carelessly would someday be the man who stopped the Mongol tide and shattered the Crusader dream. But destiny, as history often shows, favors not the privileged, but the relentless, and Baibars possessed a spirit that chains could not hold, a mind that cruelty could not crush, and a will sharper than any blade forged in the furnaces of Cairo. So when he was purchased by al-Bundukdari, a commander in the Ayyubid army who saw something extraordinary in the tall, fierce, unbroken youth, the turning of history quietly began, because within the barracks of the Mamluks, young slaves were transformed into warriors, disciplined, deadly, loyal only to their brotherhood, and Baibars trained with an intensity no one had witnessed before, using every humiliation, every scar, every memory of those who bought and sold him as fuel for greatness, until he emerged a warrior who could split an enemy's shield with a single strike, fire arrows with impossible precision, and ride like the wind across the desert sands. But it was not just his skill that made him exceptional. It was his mind, a gift for tactics so rare that even battle-hardened generals whispered his name with both admiration and unease, and it was this brilliance that thrust him into destiny at the Battle of La Forbie, and later, more famously, at Ain Jalut in 1260, when the Mongols, believed to be unstoppable, the destroyers of cities, the terror of continents, marched toward Egypt with thunder in their hooves and death in their wake. Yet Baibars, leading the vanguard of the Mamluk army, crafted a trap with such precision that it rewrote the psychology of warfare, drawing the Mongol forces into a deadly ambush among the hills of Galilee, where his cavalry struck with ferocity, discipline, and a strategic genius that shattered the myth of Mongol invincibility and changed world history in a single afternoon. It was that victory, a triumph that saved the Muslim world from annihilation, that elevated Baibars from a mere commander to a hero legendary even in his own lifetime. And with the fall of the Mongol threat came a new battlefield, the shifting politics of Cairo, where sultans rose and fell through plots, betrayal, and steel in the dark. And Baibars navigated this treacherous world with the same precision he brought to war, knowing that to protect the Mamluk state, he had to rise to the top, and rise he did, not through birthright or privilege, but through relentless merit, seizing his moment when Sultan Qutuz, who had once needed Baibars, but now feared his growing popularity and unmatched battlefield fame, became vulnerable during the return from Ain Jalut, when in a moment still debated by historians, Qutuz was killed and Baibars emerged as the new sultan, a slave no longer but the ruler of Egypt and Syria, the defender of Islam, and the supreme commander of the Mamluks. Yet power did not soften him, but sharpened him, and once seated on the throne, Baibars proved to be not only a brilliant general, but a visionary leader who strengthened fortresses, rebuilt armies, established diplomatic networks stretching from the Golden Horde to the Byzantine Empire, and launched relentless campaigns against the Crusader States, dismantling them piece by piece until their once mighty coastal strongholds fell like crumbling sandcastles before the tide of his ambition, while the people of Egypt, Syria, and beyond saw in him a symbol of justice, strict, fierce, sometimes brutal, but always unyielding in his commitment to stability and security. And though his rise had been carved from hardship, battle, and betrayal, Baibars never forgot the chain around his neck as a boy, never forgot the slave markets, the whip, the humiliation, and it was this memory that shaped his rule with a paradoxical blend of iron discipline and deep loyalty to his soldiers, for he knew that true power was not inherited, but earned, not granted, but taken, and that the world respects not the birth of a man, but the force of his will. And so the story of Baibars, the slave who became a sultan, stands as one of the most impossible transformations in human history, a tale of a boy stolen from his homeland who rose through blood and brilliance to command empires, defeat the greatest armies of his age, and carve his name into the stone of time, reminding the world that greatness can come from the most unlikely places, and that the fire of destiny burns brightest in those who refuse to bow, no matter the chains around their hands or the shadows trying to hold them down. But Baibars' ascent to the throne was only the beginning of a reign that would test the limits of power, loyalty, and destiny itself. For the Sultan who rose from chains quickly discovered that ruling an empire required a sharper blade than the one used to win it. And as he stepped into the grand citadel of Cairo, its stone walls echoing with whispers of plots, alliances, and jealous rivals, he understood that every triumph he had earned on the battlefield would be challenged by the complexities of leadership. For Egypt was wealthy, diverse, and constantly threatened by internal factions and foreign enemies. Yet Baibars confronted these challenges with the same relentless determination that had carried him from a slave's shackles to a general's command, reshaping the Mamluk state with reforms so deep that they would outlast his lifetime, structuring the military into an unbreakable machine, strengthening the Iqta system, establishing postal routes that stretched across deserts like veins of an empire, and creating a network of watchtowers and fortresses that turned the Levant into a barrier no invader could cross, while at the same time forging diplomatic ties with the Golden Horde, whose ruler Burqa Khan admired Baibars' defiance of the Mongols, forming a rare alliance between Kipchak and former slave, a reunion of origins twisted by fate, but united in purpose. Yet even as Baibars built, he fought ceaselessly, launching campaign after campaign along the Mediterranean coast, where the Crusader States still clung desperately to their dwindling strongholds, and under his command, fortresses that had stood for decades crumbled one by one: Caesarea, Arsuf, Jaffa, Antioch, each falling like ancient pillars of defiance, unable to withstand the storm of his ambition. And in every victory, the legend of Baibars grew, as did the fear in the hearts of his enemies, who whispered that the Sultan possessed not merely skill but destiny, a man touched by both brutality and brilliance, capable of reshaping the world through sheer will. Yet behind his fierce exterior lived a mind constantly calculating, struggling with the burden of leadership, the weight of a throne forged from brotherhood, yet often threatened by betrayal. For Baibars knew that within the Mamluk system, where every ruler rose from the sword hand of a soldier, loyalty was fragile, and the same men who cheered a leader could turn against him if they sensed weakness. So he governed through a balance of strict justice and carefully measured ruthlessness, punishing corruption without hesitation, rewarding loyalty with generosity, and making it clear that the throne of Egypt was no place for the timid or indecisive. And though he had risen from nothing, Baibars ruled with the presence of a king born to power, yet he never forgot the lessons of pain and captivity. And perhaps it was that memory etched like a burn upon his spirit that drove him forward relentlessly, always building, always expanding, always pushing. For he understood that the story of a man who rises from chains must never end in complacency, and so his reign became an unbroken march of reform, conquest, and vigilance, a constant shaping of the Mamluk state into a fortress against both Crusader and Mongol threats, ensuring that Egypt and Syria would stand untouchable long after he was gone. Yet destiny, which had once lifted him from the dust, remained unpredictable. And as years passed, Baibars' health began to waver under the strain of command, though he refused to show weakness, hiding fatigue behind armor, concealing illness behind strategy, for he knew that a ruler shaped by struggle must never reveal cracks. And when his final moment came, whether through illness or the poison claimed by some chronicles, the world felt the passing of a titan, a man who had changed history by sheer force of will. And though he died far from the slave market where his life had been stolen from him, Baibars left behind an empire stabilized, enemies defeated, borders secured, and a legacy so immense that even today his name stands as a symbol of resilience, strategy, and unbreakable determination, proving that the greatest leaders are not born in palaces but forged in fire, and that sometimes the destiny of kingdoms rests not upon the shoulders of the privileged, but upon the heart of a child, once sold in chains, who refused to bow before the world. And so, as the echoes of Baibars' life fade into the corridors of time, his journey remains one of the greatest transformations ever recorded in human history, a reminder that destiny does not belong to the privileged or the powerful, but to those who refuse to surrender. For Baibars rose not because the world opened its doors to him, but because he broke through every door that tried to cage him. And today, centuries later, the image of that young slave boy dragged across the steppe in chains stands in stark contrast to the vision of the Sultan who ruled Egypt with iron discipline and unwavering resolve, a man who stared down Mongol armies, dismantled Crusader fortresses, and reshaped the political map of the Middle East, proving that greatness is not inherited, but earned blade by blade, choice by choice, battle by battle, until the world is forced to acknowledge the power of a soul carved by struggle. And as we look back on his extraordinary rise, from captivity to crown, from the dust of the markets to the marble of the throne room, we are reminded that the human spirit is capable of rewriting the impossible, and the legacy of Baibars lives on not only in the pages of history, but in every story of a life transformed through courage, vision, and relentless determination, leaving us with a question that reaches across the centuries. What would you do if fate bound your hands in chains? Would you break them as Baibars did, or bow to the weight of a world that tried to defeat you? If this journey through the life of Baibars, the slave who became a sultan, moved you, inspired you, or opened a window into a chapter of history rarely told with the depth it deserves, make sure to like this video, share it with others who love powerful stories from the past, comment your thoughts or your favorite moment from Baibars' rise, and subscribe for more epic history documentaries just like this one, because every week we bring you the untold stories, the forgotten heroes, and the legendary journeys that shaped our world. So stay with us, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.